of New York and New Jersey 2024. My name is Stephen Lyman with the Maritime Association of Port of New York and New Jersey, and we are proud to be a co-host of this event with the Port of New York and New Jersey, the Shipping Association of New York and New Jersey. You'll be hearing New York and New Jersey a lot today. Special thanks to Amanda Valdez and Elaine Liu and their teams for the help in putting this event together. We hope that you enjoyed the venue selected for this year. The stakeholders in this room and watching online are responsible to make this gateway one of the most crucial in not only the country, but the world. As the largest port on the East Coast, our work adds to the country's economy, and we continue to play a leading role performing cargo movements throughout the region. Not only are we facilitating growth in our economy right now, but well into the future. The foresight of the transportation and logistics leaders of the past helped to turn New York Harbor into a thriving gateway for commerce and trade. The Maritime Association is looking forward to 2024 and will continue to advocate for the commercial maritime industry, promote safety of navigation, the security of maritime assets to move cargo efficiently and effectively from overseas to the last mile. Thank you for your time. We have a number of speakers lined up for today, and now I would like to introduce Reverend Mark Nesselhut to offer the invocation from the Siemens Church Institute. Mark?
So I'll begin by answering the question everyone's wondering right now, which is that those of you who are eating your salads already, that will be blessed in absentia. Let us pray. Gracious God, as we gather here this day to celebrate the work and mission of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, we give thanks for those who work within the greater port community to power this massive enterprise. The Port Authority employees, the terminal operators, the truckers, the rail workers, organized labor, the agents, and many others who enable the flow of commerce through this great port. And of course, we give thanks for the seafarers who spend extended time away from home and family to move cargo across vast oceans to power the world's economy. We also remember firefighters Captains Augusto Augie Acabo and Wayne Bear Brooks Jr., who died in the line of duty fighting the fire aboard the Grande Costa d'Avorio. May light perpetual shine upon them. Thank you for the service of all the first responders who also responded to that emergency. Thank you for the men and women of the United States Coast Guard Sector New York and for the work of CBP, the Port Authority Police, and others in keeping vigilant and maintaining safety within the port. We thank you for the many associations, both for-profit and nonprofit, that serve this port community. Finally, we thank you for this food that has been prepared for us, and we ask that you bless it to our use and always keep us mindful and responsive to the needs of others. All this we ask in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Mark. And now I would like to introduce Kevin O'Toole, Chairman of the Port Authority, for his comments.
Thank you very much, Reverend. Thank you very much for that blessing. And thank you very much for acknowledging the passing of the firemen Acabo and Brooks. It was a time we all wish we can take back. Our prayers go out to the family, and we're looking forward to working with the City of Newark and the Port Authority going forward. Now, I walked in today, and I was kind of taken aback a little bit. I have not been to this venue. Very impressive. Looks a little pricey, but very impressive. And one of the Port Authority employees said to me, "This would be a great place to have a wedding for your daughter." I said, "Did you look at the place?" My daughter has taken a place already, probably for half the cost, but we're okay. We're taken care of. Thank you very much. But Beth Rooney, where are you? Hats off to Beth Rooney, who runs the port. Amazing leader that we have. Amazing, amazing leader. She's been with us in 1993, and you don't fully appreciate what Beth does every day until you saw her in the extreme circumstances through COVID, during the fire. She is just an extraordinary leader. We've had her here for 31 years. She pledged to me she's good for another 10 years here, so thank you very much for that commitment, Beth. Hats off, Beth, for being one of our real pillars. And I want to also thank your employees, the Port Authority employees, the port employees. Are they here? Can you please stand for a round of applause? The port employees. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I know a few of you are upset about the game yesterday. Where's Gary Love? Gary, complaining to me about Detroit. Gary, we're sorry about Detroit. It was a hell of a game. I was talking to some of our partners here today, and I ran into a number of people from Mar in particular. And I ran into Anthony from Mar, and everyone says, well, he's the guy. He's the person. So where's Anthony? Anthony's around here someplace. Anthony. So I said to Anthony, Anthony, you're the person who makes it all happen. What did he say? He said, no, everybody at Mar is important. And that's really what today is about, Anthony. Everybody in this building, everybody who's here working with the Port Authority and shipping, maritime, you're all important. This is the most important port in the East Coast. We think it's the most important port in all of the USA. And as Corey Hart sang about years ago, we're never going to surrender number 2. We want to get number 1. But everybody here who is taking up shipping or this particular sect in our economy, we thank you. You create over 500,000 jobs. You are the engine that makes New Jersey, New York, up into the Midwest work. 35% of the cargo that comes in here from the East Coast comes through here, our little ports. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if they thought about that 100 years ago when they made this port up, that 35% of the cargo gets shipped through here, worth $250 billion? So I'm here just to say thank you to our partners. Thank you to labor. Thank you to our folks who have made it work. It's been a tough year, but 2024 is going to be a great year. Beth, great year. And the reason it's going to be a great year because we've got great partners, great employees. And I will tell you this in all candor, I have the joy for now 7 years working with the greatest executive director. I say that without hyperbole. Rick Cotton has been the man who has held it all together through the most difficult times. He's been our leader at the Port Authority, here at the port, here throughout all of our assets. He's an amazing visionary. He's a worker. He's a doer. I ask you for a round of applause that makes it all happen. Rick Cotton.
Good morning. Good afternoon, I should say. Pleasure to be here. Want to thank the Maritime Association, the Shipping Association for joining with us in sponsorship of this event. I'm here really just to indicate to everybody in this room that we recognize what an important part of the Port Authority, the Port of New York and New Jersey is. As the chairman said, Beth, we appreciate your leadership, has been extraordinary. We've seen the port move, if you measure it by loaded containers, from number 3 to number 2. It has always been the leading port on the East Coast. And we recognize that the people in this room are who actually drive forward what the port does. So I'm really here. You've heard the chairman indicating the support he provides, the leadership he provides, leadership that the board of directors, the board of commissioners provides. And I just want to say to everyone in this room, the senior management, as well as the entire agency at the agency level, looks forward to continuing the partnerships that we have had. I want to particularly note our marine terminal operators, MAR, APM, our newest member of the family, CMA, CGM, PNCT, and the Red Hook Container Terminal. We recognize the role that you play. We recognize the extraordinary hard work of the International Longshoremen's Association, our partnership with the Metropolitan Marine Contractors Association, our drayage truck operators, and our federal partners. And I really want to name them: the U.S. Coast Guard, CBP, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Federal Maritime Commission, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and the Maritime administration. Of course, you'll hear later today from John Nardi, President of the Shipping Association, and Paul Tuminello of the Army Corps of Engineers, but the Port of New York and New Jersey could not function without the efforts of all of our partners. So it is clear that the state of the Port of New York and New Jersey is strong. And this event symbolizes what we've heard, I have to tell you, in terms of the internal councils of the Port Authority from Beth constantly. It is the community. It is what distinguishes the Port of New York and New Jersey, is the strength of the cooperation amongst everyone in this room, amongst the organizations that you represent. We know that 2024 will have its challenges, but the fact is that I can announce that if you look at 2023, which was the first full year after COVID, the port handled 4.4% more cargo than in 2019. And as we look forward, we see growth continuing at the port. So I just want to thank you, express appreciation to all of our partners, express appreciation to all of you, and pledge to you that Beth will have the full support. You all will have support. The Port of New York and New Jersey will have the full support of the Port Authority and of the agency. Thank you all for being here.
Now it's time for lunch. We're going to start back the presentation around 1 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you.
I don't know how the years will go down. It's alright. Let's make the most of every moment tonight. I don't know who's gonna kiss you when I'm gone, so I'm gonna love you now, like it's all I have. I know it'll kill me when it's over. I don't wanna think about it. I want you to love me now. I don't know who's gonna kiss you when I'm gone, so I'm gonna love you now, like it's all I have. And I know it'll kill me when it's over. I don't wanna think about it. I just wanna love you now. Oh yeah. Oh, love you now. Oh, love you now. Love you now. Oh yeah. 105 is the number that comes to my head when I think of all the years I wanna be with you. Wake up every morning with you in my bed. That's precisely what I plan to do. And you know one of these days, when I get my money right, buy you everything and show you all the finer things in life. Will forever be enough, so there ain't no need to rush. But one day I won't be able to ask you loud enough. I'll say, will you marry me? I swear that I will mean it. I say, will you marry me? So yeah.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is enjoying their meals. Now I'd like to bring up John Nardi of the Shipping Association of New York and New Jersey to do his presentation. John?
Okay, everybody. Hope you enjoyed your lunch or still enjoying your lunch. Just a quick point of fact. Yes, this is a beautiful room and it is expensive, but the Shipping Association and the Maritime Association are paying 2/3 of it. So at the Port Authority, don't think about raising the tolls or anything today to pay for this. Thank you. Just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about this past year. I mean, the volume pendulum certainly swung and had a dramatic effect on the labor developments in the port. These are a few of the items I'm going to talk about. We rather quickly went from daily shortages and having a burned out workforce to having a surplus of longshoremen and the likes that I've never seen before. I mean, it swung so much that we have about 400 people a day who aren't working. They're not all the same people every day, but still, it's difficult to maintain a steady income for especially new workers. Keep in mind that this is only the longshore craft I'm talking about. The checkers are fairly well balanced. The mechanics are pretty well balanced, but we still have a big surplus of workers in the port. So our focus in 2024 has gone from trying to bring new workers in the industry to worker retention. All these workers went through the onboarding process, which can be time consuming. Most of them left jobs to become a longshoreman. We also spent millions of dollars training people so that they can work on specialized machinery. The bottom line is we don't want to lose them to other industries. The average attrition rate for longshoremen in the port is about 100 per year. So, you know, in the next couple of years, they'll find a home. But for now, we're changing some things up so that they can get some opportunities. First thing we're doing is we're eliminating vacation waivers for the more senior workers. It doesn't make sense for some workers to waive vacation when others are standing by ready to do the work. We're also allowing new workers to take leaves of absence, take off for 6 months if you have a more sustainable income stream available to you, and we'll revisit the situation on a quarterly basis. We're also in the process of filling open spots in gangs. This has a cascading effect where new workers fill into open spots left by the old workers and so on and so forth. And although it's winter, we're always concerned about summer and summer vacations because that's when we're usually tightest on labor. But because, you know, some workers may not have worked in a while, we're going to be doing a lot of refresher training so that when they come back, that they have the skills. You generally can't put a person in a machine who hasn't worked in it, you know, especially when the machine costs millions of dollars. It's not good for the worker and it's not good for the machine. The only locations where we did add workers in 2023 were some terminals in New York. And you're probably asking yourself, well, why would you do that? The reason is that if you're a new worker coming at entry wage, you live in New Jersey and you have to go to work in Brooklyn or Manhattan. By the time you pay a couple of bridge tolls, the turnpike toll, New Jersey income tax, New York State income tax, New York City tax, you've basically worked for nothing. Oh, and we're going to add congestion pricing on top of that too. So the casual workforce is not as casual as it used to be because of the cost of getting around in the New York area. I mentioned training before. The reduced volume allows us to catch up on training to give workers more potential opportunities. In 2023, we issued 825 new certifications. These are new workers achieving multiple skills. We also recertified 2,130 skill certifications. There's also a classroom training requirement, hazardous cargo training, respect and dignity training, power industrial truck fundamentals. And on the classroom side, we trained nearly 2,000 workers this past year. The bottom line is, for the first time in a long time that I can remember, we have enough workers in the longshore workforce to do what needs to be done to handle the volume, especially in the upcoming months in the summer of 2024. We were also able to introduce new start times for vessels calling the port. We have 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. start times now. They were added. With the larger vessels, the port during some periods is tidal, requiring slack water or high water. We now have 7 start times in the ports, and vessels rarely have to wait to start to work. And we can thank our friends at the ILA for working with us on making these changes happen. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Council on Port Performance, because it was pointed out to me by Beth last week, who is the co-chair of the council, that we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Port Performance Task Force and the subsequent Council on Port Performance, so 10 years. We still meet on a regular basis, and in my opinion, it's the finest stakeholder forum anywhere in any port. We still sit down, and in a couple of hours, an expert from each stakeholder group gives an update on the successes and challenges that they're facing. And I can tell you that I've never sat in one of these meetings and not come out with a better educated on what needs to be done to keep the port and the region's supply chain fluid. So I'd like to thank all the members of the CPP for the time and expertise that you volunteer to the CPP. And if you can just raise your hand if you're a CPP member. All right, thank you. And give them a hand, please, all right? They're dedicating all their time for all of us here, right? Community outreach. I think this is important and probably one of the most significant strides that we've made as a port community in the last 10 years. We went from the port being shut down with protests for not providing job opportunities to having frequent job fairs and working with local educators and institutions on how local residents can prepare themselves for work opportunities in the supply chain. Regardless of the changes in technology, the supply chain will always need skilled workers. And it's not just this port, but the whole region's supply chain. Hillary McCarron of the Port Authority leads this initiative, and I'd like to recognize her for the great work that she does. Thank you, Hillary. There's also an initiative being supported in part by members of the port community in the city of Newark called the Commission on Homelessness. This is an initiative, of course, initiated by Mayor Baraka, but Jim Policio, President and CEO of P&CT, is the co-chair of the commission. He was supposed to be here today, but he's not. He asked me to join the commission, and I have to say I've been incredibly impressed by the efforts of the city of Newark and its community in their efforts to end chronic homelessness. My contribution has been mostly along the lines of organizational management and communication. Jim hasn't asked for money yet, but he is from Bayonne, so I know it's coming. But the people tackling this issue, they're incredible. Just a few weeks ago, I attended the grand opening of Hope Village 2, a complex built from shipping containers, modified to look like apartments to help people facing chronic homelessness to get on their feet. The success of the program is in the numbers. Newark has reduced homelessness in their city by over 50%. They've been recognized nationally as a model on this issue, and I'm proud that the port community can participate. On a somber note, they've been mentioned previously, we still mourn the loss of firefighters Augie Akabu and Wayne Bear Brooks. The loss of their lives hit home with me because my father was a New York City fireman. After the tragedy, there was a lot of talk on the port of, well, how can we help the families? Of course, we can't take away the pain, but we can ease their minds by taking away the concern of the financial burden of losing these men. We approached the board of the Shipping Association of New York and New Jersey, my association, who immediately approved the donation. And after that, individual companies came out of the woodwork asking how they could contribute over and above what the members of the association contributed. In addition to the association, donations were made by the following organizations: Metropolitan Marine Contractors Association, Joe Ragusa, United States Maritime Alliance, APMT, GCT, now Port Liberty, Hyundai Glovis, the Lambos Firm, Mar Terminals, Marine Repair Company, Mediterranean Shipping Company, NYK, Ports America, Red Hook, Seaboard Marine, Yang Ming Line, and the Waterfront Alliance. On November 16th, we were able to present the families to present the families by working through the International Association of Firefighters with checks for $220,000 each to help ease the financial burden in their tragic time. When this port needs to come together, nobody does it like we do. Last and not least, labor. I'm supposed to hit this, I think. Yeah, labor, look ahead. As most of you know, there are two contracts in each port. The master contract negotiated by United States Maritime Alliance, which I'm a board member of, and in New York and New Jersey, we have the NYSA ILA local agreement. The master contract mainly deals with wages and jurisdiction and healthcare. The local contract deals with pension, welfare, and local working conditions. We already have a tentative agreement on the local contract. In fact, we agreed to it about a year ago. The master contract is still outstanding, and the only thing I can report on that front is that we are talking, and we are trying to find a way forward. So thank you very much. Okay. And now, I would like to introduce the person here that everybody knows, Beth Rooney.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It truly is a beautiful venue and a great opportunity to be here with all of you. Apparently, this is my clicker, and it works. So first, I want to thank the Shipping Association and the Maritime Association for co-sponsoring this event with us. You know, we used to do it, and there's a number of retirees in the room. We used to do it at Christmas time, and it used to be an evening cocktail party when everybody else, was, holding events and very busy. So we decided back in 2018 to move it to January and make it a combination of a look behind and a look ahead. So we appreciate everybody joining. I told the chairman earlier this morning that I'm not retiring until we can move this event to the New Jersey PAC Center and fill the entire venue, right? We're the Port of New York and New Jersey. We can do better than 250 people. So let us look at 2003 by the numbers, and recognizing these numbers are not necessarily a great story to talk about, but it is our story. So last year we did 7.8 million TEUs. It's down 17.6%. But you have to put that in perspective of the 29% that it had grown since 2020. Interestingly, the number of container vessel calls was up 2.9%. I'm sure our friends in the Coast Guard and the Maritime Association are well aware of that. And a 4.7% increase in vessels over 9,000 TEUs. So the ships are getting larger, and we'll talk more about larger ships in a minute. We did 629,000 rail lifts. That's about 25% of the capacity of our rail network. So we have room to grow with our discretionary cargo. We've got our partners in the room here from Conrail, Norfolk Southern, and CSX, and we can get your cargo to the Midwest through our express rail network in essentially 36 hours after departing the port. The auto business, about 367,000 autos. This is down predominantly because of an order that the Port Authority put in place after the tragic fire, where we stopped temporarily the export of POVs, previously owned vehicles. That order remains in place until we can be satisfied that we can restart that business in a safe manner and not have another tragic event like we experienced in July. On the bulk cargo, we handled 3.1 metric tons. Again, this is down about 17%, mostly because road salt was down, and road salt was down, thankfully, because we have had mild winters. So that's actually a number that I like to see. Because I, like others, I think, hate winter. On the positive side, we did about 1.18 million passengers at the cruise terminals, and those are just the Port Authority's cruise terminals. So Brooklyn and Bayonne, there were about another 700,000 passengers that moved through the Manhattan cruise terminal. So by all accounts, the cruise business has fully recovered to pre-pandemic limits, and I'm sure Customs and Border Protection is very familiar with that. So it's difficult, as I said, to compare to 2003 because of the unprecedented pandemic-driven volume that we had seen. But particularly for import containers, which was bolstered by the stimulus funding and the fact that we as consumers were spending more money on services rather than goods. Now we're buying more stuff, and the stuff that we've been buying is actually been the products that have been stored in warehouses and distribution centers for well over a year now. So extra volumes of cargo were coming in 2020, 21, 22, 23. We were feeding off of that bloated inventory that was in those warehouses. Now, depending upon the commodity sector, some of those warehouses are still full. Others of those warehouses are finally beginning to empty out, and there'll be a restocking that we expect to happen in 2024. So we started to see our import volumes decline in December of 2022, and they pretty much stayed down through all of 2023. But nonetheless, we had a 4.4% increase over the volume that we did in 2019. So it's consistent with growth that we normally experienced in pre-pandemic times. As Rick Cotton said earlier, the port finishes as number 2 for loaded containers. So that's loaded import containers and loaded export containers. And I think that speaks volumes to the confidence that the shippers, the beneficial cargo owners, the NVOs have in the Port of New York and New Jersey. We are moving more loaded containers than the Port of Long Beach, and we're moving just short of the number of loaded containers as Los Angeles. So I am confident that, we are on a positive trajectory. The confidence that our customers collectively have in the business and the services that we provide here is very, very positive. As we look to 2024, as again I said, we're looking at normalized volume, but as we all know, there's a number of outside factors that are impacting that we have no control over. Most notably the Panama Canal and weather issues with the Panama Canal. So if you do anything, pray for rain. But probably more important than praying for rain in Panama is praying for peace in Israel, Palestine, the Gaza Strip, the Red Sea, and beyond. And certainly a tragic news this morning. Waking up to with the Houthi. Affecting U.S. military service members, and we thank them for their service and their sacrifice to our country. But we have commercial ships that are operated by civilian mariners from around the world that are now being attacked for just doing their job and trying to help move goods that we and everyone around the world depends on every single day. So those two situations, will surely impact things that go on here in the port. To date, all of our services that go through the Suez Canal, for the most part, have decided to go around the Cape of Good Hope. That adds between 10 to 14 days to the transit, but it is at least a consistent addition of that time. So the service that would have arrived on Monday of week 1 of the month now is arriving on Monday of week 3 of the month. It has led to some vessel bunching, albeit pretty moderate, pretty mild vessel bunching. But what the terminals are experiencing now, as we're beginning to see these vessels that have been rerouted, is a couple of days where there's more ships than what they would typically handle, and then there's several days of no ships. But that cargo volume is being handled and being handled well and fluidly. Just as a point of information, about 1/3 of our cargo moves through the Suez Canal traditionally, and another 12% of that moves through both the Suez and the Panama. So we're talking just about 46 ish percent of our volume that is impacted by the situation in the Suez Canal. And there's another 24% that's impacted by what's going on in the Panama Canal. So the good thing about the Port of New York and New Jersey is that we're able to service all markets, north, south, east and west in both directions. The bad news right now is that we are at the whim, I guess, of the Panama situation and the Red Sea situation. So as I said, normalized volume growth. So if you look at this chart, 2019, and I know it's hard and we can send this out to everybody. 2019 is the light blue line. That was our last year of normal. The red, gray, and silver lines are the pandemic years, 2020, 21, and 22, where we experienced, very steep declines and even steeper growths in those cargo trajectories. You've seen this slide before, but overall, we had a 29% increase in volume, which really was just unprecedented for that period of time. So we have to throw those years out, wipe it clean from our memory, and go back to 2019 and grow from there. So the dark blue line is 2023. And if you look at the pattern of the dark blue line, it's largely aligned with the light blue line, and that's the seasonality. So last year, for the first year since 2019, we returned to what we call the normal seasonality in the Port of New York and New Jersey, where we have Lunar New Year with a lull. Following the Lunar New Year, we have a restocking, and then we get into Christmas and back to school, and then we get into the slack season or the seasonal slowdown. So we did last year exactly what we have traditionally done, and I expect that we will continue to do that now moving forward. The better news to me is that we're right on track with where we expect it to be. So again, throwing out those anomalies that we experienced during the pandemic, if you look at where we are for 2023, we're exactly where the Port Master Plan 2050 that we published in June of 2019 projected that we were going to be for 2023. We're right on that line. So I'm not concerned about where we are. I know it's painful for all of you, as service providers, the terminal operators, truckers, chassis providers, rail. Everybody is talking about how much cargo volume is down, but we're exactly where all of the forecasts, indicated that we were going to be. The confidence that the shippers, have shown that we are handling more loaded containers really comes from not only the services that we provide, but the access to the consumer. And the access to the consumer and the most affluent market in the United States, and the ability to reach 45 million people within 4 hours drive, and another 138 million people within 36 hours is really pretty incredible. So with that, I want to go back and look at a couple of our key accomplishments for 2023. First and foremost, we received grant funding to advance our southbound corridor improvement project, southbound connector project. This is a rail project that will connect Elizabeth, Express Rail Elizabeth, that serves MAR and APM. It'll connect to the Garden State Secondary with Conrail. And right now, all of our Express Rail facilities, the trains come out and make a right and go north. With this southbound connector, the trains will be able to come out of Millennium Marine Rail, make a left and go south and avoid some of the area where the rest of the trains are all being built and congesting in one area. When that is all built out, it'll increase the system's capacity by 600,000 lifts and increase reliability by 26.5%. With the full suite of additional improvements by Conrail on the Garden State Secondary, reliability of the service will increase by 37% or more. So we're excited to be in what is now the stage 3 design of that, and I'm hopeful that next year I'm back here and we're talking about being in construction. On the trucker experience side, the Port Authority places a lot of value on customer experience, and in the rest of the Port Authority's facilities, airports, tunnels, bridges, bus terminals, rail system, the customer is us, right? It's the human. And when you talk about customer experience in the port, we've always said that cargo doesn't talk, but the truck driver does talk. So as we've focused on customer experience across the agency, we're focusing very heavily on the truck driver's experience. So in March of this year, we launched a QR code that has been placed in all of the terminals, at the kiosks, at driver assistance, it's at some of the lunch trucks, and at the truck service center. That QR code allows a truck driver to scan and then provide immediate feedback to us on his or her experience at the port. We're asking specific questions like, how is our communication on traffic conditions? How is the clarity of information about safety protocols and wayfinding around the facility? The condition of the public restrooms, the helpfulness of the port staff, and the clarity and availability of the information being shared in the Port Authority's various information channels. That information is provided anonymously in real time, and our team that is focused on goods movement and efficiency is evaluating that information and then particularly looking for trends and going back to the terminal operators to speak about any issues that there may be. I seem to have lost my place. We also launched a number of truck driver appreciation events last year, where we were available both in evenings and weekends to the truck driver community, providing information to the truck drivers in multiple languages, and just being available for them so that they could understand what it's like to do business in the Port of New York and New Jersey. We've launched TWIC Enroll Your Own, so for your transportation workers identification credential, if you forgot your password and you weren't able to activate your fingerprint, you used to have to drive downtown Newark in order to go and reactivate your fingerprint and your PIN or your passcode. Now we have the ability to do that right in the truck service center. So that just provides more efficiency for the truck drivers and keeps them driving rather than moving all over the community trying to get their credentials in order to come to work. In July, we kicked off construction of the Port Street Corridor Improvement Project. This is a project that the Port Authority's probably been talking about for a decade or longer. Rick, Dennis, were we talking about it before you guys retired? Before you were born, excellent. So we're finally in construction with the Port Street Corridor Improvement Project. In fact, if you go down to the port now, in the last about 10 days or so, Kellogg Street, the street in front of our administration building, has been relocated, and it is now about 250 feet south of where it was. And we are well on our way to being able to have the detour in place that will allow us, come the middle of the year, to take the Corbin Street ramp or the Port Street ramp that comes as you're inbound on Port Street going past the airport, and you would make the right in order to get on Corbin. That ramp is going to come out of service. We'll have a detour set up on the new Kellogg Street in order to get to the south side of the port. $220 million project, funded in part by the U.S. Department of Transportation, Maritime Administration. I saw Tom Morcan here. Thank you, Tom, for your assistance. When the project is completed, we will have roadway curvatures that are up to today's standards and not the way that they were designed in the 1950s and 60s. They'll be able to provide for safety, increased reliability and efficiency for our trucking community. We have, in order to help provide information to the community on our website, we have a GIS-based map that has all of the various phases and stages of the program and what the current status of that project is, regularly updated. And just last week, we launched, as part of the Council on Port Performance, a working group that is made up of members of the bi-state motor carriers, the port users group, and some of our tenants who are working with Patrick and his project management team and Blair in order to provide real-time information, both directions on that project. In August, we signed a new lease with CMA CGM and Global Container Terminals for the terminal in Bayonne and the terminal in Staten Island. GCT, Global Container Terminals, was looking to exit the U.S. terminals. In doing so, we provided a consent to that transaction. And when we provided a consent to that transaction, we also renegotiated part of the leases. So those two leases right now go through 2047. And in going through 2047, they have committed significant capital investment to both terminals to the tune of about $500 million. And they have committed to the Port Authority's standards for the likes of key performance indicators, performance measures, accountability for those performance measures, sustainability, safety, security, and the like. So that lease structure will become the baseline for future leases as we move down the road. In September, the Port Authority launched our Net Zero Roadmap. This was done as part of Climate Week in New York City. The Net Zero Roadmap is a comprehensive plan that includes about 40 actions that the agency will take across all of the transportation modes to achieve both our near-term and our long-term goals of net zero carbon emissions. So many of you know and have been around for going back to 2009 when we started the Clean Air Strategy, and the Clean Air Strategy was focused on criteria air pollutants, things like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, particulate matter. We're still focused on those, but now we're additionally focused on greenhouse gas. So on our roadmap to net zero emissions, we expect that we will be 35% of our direct emissions. So the Port Authority's operations will reduce our contribution to greenhouse gas 35% by 2025, and then 50% by 2035, with the goal of getting us to net zero by 2050. Part of that program includes the Clean Vessel Incentive. The Port Authority Board last year provided an additional $8 million so that we can provide incentives to the ocean carriers, both for sustainability measures that they take, as well as slowing down when they're within 20 miles of the EEZ, the exclusive economic zone. So basically 20 miles outside the Verrazano Narrows. So we provide cash incentives to the ocean carriers who are willing to participate in those two initiatives. We also are continuing with the truck replacement program. The truck replacement program provides $25,000 per truck to truck drivers or trucking companies in order to replace those trucks with a cleaner, newer diesel engine, or when the time comes, with an alternative fueled vehicle. To date, through this program, we've replaced 962 trucks, and we've seen a complete flip-flop in the number of trucks that were what we call the old dirty diesel trucks, where about 80% of the moves and the transactions in the port were being handled by dirty trucks. Today, 80% of them are being handled by the cleanest of the trucks that are on the market today. So that has been just a remarkable shift over the course of time. That has been aided in part by two other programs from the Port Authority. One that limits the age of the truck that is able to register to do business in the port. If it hasn't previously been serving the port, you now need to have a 2014 or newer engine. And we have phased out all trucks that are older than a 1999 engine model year. So those are forbidden from doing service in the port any longer. Staying on the sustainability realm, we have introduced fast chargers, and we are in construction to put DC fast chargers at the information center at the port. These are under construction today and will go live later this year. In the harbor maintenance channel world, berths first. On the berths, our board approved $180 million in November for our berth and wharf replacement program and rehabilitation program. So all of the berths and wharfs around the facility are 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. In some cases, thanks to cleaner water, in the aftermath of the Clean Water Act, we have created an environment where the little marine borer, an invertebrate worm, likes to feed on the wood piles throughout the port. And they get in there and they core away from the inside out, and the wooden piles just disintegrate. So we've got $180 million that will be spent over the next 5 years, working to slowly begin the process of rehabilitating many of the piers throughout our facility. Now on the harbor deepening and channel improvement side, it was about a year ago that the Army Corps of Engineers completed the feasibility study to determine whether or not the harbor should be deepened any further. And the result of that study was that the channel should be deepened to 55 feet and that there should be selective widening in certain areas of the channels as you get to Port Jersey, Port Authority Marine Terminal, Port Newark, Elizabeth, Port Authority Marine Terminal. So the Port Authority Board authorized in December us entering into a project engineering and design phase with the Army Corps of Engineers, which will allow us to fine-tune the construction schedule, the cost of the project, and then getting to the point where we have designs and drawings for the first constructible elements. So we're looking forward to getting that part of the project underway with the Army Corps. The second part of that is the pathway to Howland Hook. It was not part of the original project because at the time, there was not a lot of business at Howland Hook, and there was not a justifiable cost benefit for the federal government to invest in deepening the waterways to Howland Hook. Now that CMA has taken over and there is a commitment to funding and there is a commitment to volume, we have enough information that the Army Corps and the Port Authority are willing to evaluate further deepening to Howland Hook. So we have also received authorization in order to move forward with the study of the deepening of the Howland Hook. A couple things that aren't on here. So much of what we do is about communication and outreach with the customers. Last year, we launched a dashboard. That dashboard, with the help of the Shipping Association, thank you, is putting out on a weekly basis things like daily average turn times, weekly import numbers, container dwell time, the number of trouble tickets, rail dwell, and the like. We're continuing to put that out. This year, I expect that we're going to add some news highlights, particularly, as we continue to monitor what's going on in the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal. If you're not receiving it and you'd like to receive it directly, please see somebody on the Port Authority team, myself, or any one of the Port Authority team that's here, and we'll make sure you get on that distribution list. It is on our website every week, but I understand our website is not the easiest to find things. So we're happy to send it to you directly. We're working on a warehouse directory, about 50 odd warehouses in the directory now. Often we get questions from shippers to say, where can I bring my cargo? Who has capacity? What can I do? Same thing happens with trucking companies. So we are on an ongoing process to develop and cultivate and build out warehousing and trucking directories, because we can't say use ABC Trucking Company or use XYZ warehouse. So we've been collecting this information, and now we can make that information available to shippers and NVOs who, are asking questions, and we're able to provide that, and then they can do, their outreach themselves. Last year, thanks to Zach, our FTZ manager, we designated 5 new operators within the Foreign Trade Zone number 49. We now have 36 Foreign Trade Zone sites and subzones, employing approximately 6,000 workers. And again, we thank Customs and Border Protection for your support in doing that. We hosted 11 delegations from port authorities and economic development agencies from around the world. We've executed MOUs last year with the Port of Ashdod in Israel and with Haiphong in Vietnam. These are important relationships as shippers begin to diversify their supply chain, particularly into Vietnam. We are in discussions with the Port of Busan about another sister port agreement, and also with the Port of Gdansk. And we have seen, quite a bit of movement of manufacturing into Eastern Europe. So those are, again, important relationships for us. On the workforce development side, John mentioned a couple of things that Hillary and her team have been doing. We brought together Industry Workforce Development Exchange in March that put our workforce partners in conversation with port businesses. We then had a maritime construction demonstration, and we provided tours to the workforce partners to highlight the niche needs that we have in the port. And then in October, we held a transportation logistics distribution job fair that was hosted by Union County American Job Center. And as part of that effort, employers have been afforded opportunities to get on-the-job training funds of up to $10,000 each for every new hire that comes out of that program. So there's an opportunity that's still available. I'm looking for a head nod. There's an opportunity that's still available for employers to take advantage of that. On the security front, we worked closely with the New Jersey State Police as the dissolution of the Bi-State Waterfront Commission. New Jersey State Police, certainly a new mission for them. Our staff worked closely to provide facility orientation and tours, and we are now providing training to some of the New Jersey State Police folks, as well as to the security guards that are part of that effort. We continue to provide for our cybersecurity. If we were to consider what our top threats are today, they're very different than they have been in years past, and cybersecurity is in the top 2 or 3. So we have worked closely with the CSAC to create a cybersecurity information exchange. All of our terminal operators are a part of it. We're partners with Coast Guard and Customs, the FBI and others in that. And the intelligence that we're getting from that forum on a weekly basis has been very timely and actionable, and in many instances is coming to us through that organization much faster than we're getting it directly from the federal agencies. We've hosted a team from the U.S. Coast Guard Cyber Protection team. We have an upcoming event. The Sustainable Terminal Services has an upcoming event, I think, next week with the Coast Guard on cybersecurity, and we continue to provide first responder emergency training in partnership with the Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness. Looking at 2024, we will be updating, under the sustainability realm, we'll be updating our community engagement plan. This is an important effort. We've had one again for quite some time based on the Clean Air Strategy. We'll be updating that community engagement plan because that is the key to us being able to have access to upwards of $3 billion that is being made available for U.S. ports around the country. We first need to have an updated community engagement plan, so we'll be doing that. We have a port sustainability summit planned in April. Invitations will be going out to that to many of you in the room here shortly. We'll be having it across the way at the cruise terminal. We're working both with our sustainability and our business development team in terms of developing some green corridors. These are, programs where everybody throughout the supply chain, has made commitments to sustainability, and in making those commitments to sustainability, vessels, burning alternative fuels and cargo handling equipment and truckers and whatnot. So we'll be investigating some preliminary partnerships in the green shipping corridors. And as I said, we'll be bringing the DC fast chargers online. On the customer experience realm, I think this is way too cool and way too late. But at the truck service center, we have only been accepting money orders. Who knows what those are any longer? Money orders and corporate checks for transactions at the truck service center associated with our SeaLink card. We are finally entering the 21st century, and we'll be accepting credit card payments by mid-year. I'm super excited. We're also moving to a chatbot where our customer service and information for the trucks and trucking community and the shipping community will be available through an AI-based chatbot, also by the middle of the year. Later this week, we are releasing a RFP for a new ferry service, not a business that we talk about often, but the Port Authority does operate the Brookfield Place ferry terminal in Lower Manhattan, and we have a long-term agreement with New Jersey Transit for Hoboken. So the service between those two facilities is a Port Authority operation, and we'll be putting out an RFP for a new operator for that service, and we'll be doing a rail summit. On the infrastructure side, I talked about the southbound connector, and I've talked about the study to Howland Hook. And then finally, we'll be building on the Security Information Exchange and continuing to train the first responders. So all in all, I think we had, despite the volume, I think we had an incredible 2023 across the board. There was a little bit of breathing room that I think allowed everybody, our terminal operators and the trucking companies and others, the opportunity to continue to build out capacity, build out relationships. I've spoken to some truckers who have really, embraced more technology and information and data transparency, to help their business. And it's the types of things that they didn't have the time to do when we were handling 25 to 30% more cargo. So folks are taking advantage, of, the normalization of the volume. There's been some breathing room, and they're preparing for the future. The volume that we handled in 2022 was what we didn't forecast to handle in 2030. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a look at what our future is like. And we have 6 or 7 years now to prepare the right way in order to handle that volume of 9.5 million containers when it comes again. So I'm excited for 2024. I appreciate everybody's support of the Port of New York and New Jersey, for all of the customers that are in the room, for the confidence that you have provided in us, and for each and every one of the service providers and the stakeholders who values your cargo and looks to work very efficiently and reliably and sustainably in order to handle that cargo. So Here's to a fantastic 2024. We'll see you many, many times between now and the next State of the Port, but we'll have even better things to say this time next year. So thank you all for joining us. So let me introduce, don't leave yet. I'm going to start calling you out by name. Let me introduce here Lieutenant Colonel LaRusso from the Army Corps of Engineers, who will speak briefly about some of the important work that the Army Corps is doing around the harbor for us. Colonel?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm fully aware of what time is on the clock and that rush hour is approaching us. I'll keep my remarks brief, but thank you, Ms. Rooney. It's an honor to be here today on behalf of the Corps of Engineers. Our relationship with the Port Authority, the Maritime Association, and the Shipping Association of New York is essential to the maintenance and improvement works we execute each year, ensuring the waterways supporting national security, commerce, and recreation are clean, navigable, and safe. I'd also like to thank you for this beautiful location. For those of you who don't know, we have an area office right across the way over here. So it was nice to be able to come over from Manhattan, see our folks here in the operations division, and then come on over here to meet with everyone today. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Nick LaRusso. I'm the Deputy Commanding Officer of the Corps of Engineers New York District. I have with me today our Chief of the Operations Division, Randy Hintz, and our Chief of our Civil Works Branch, Paul Tuminello. Both Randy and Paul are longtime Corps of Engineer employees and have dedicated much of their lives to the resilience and readiness of the New York and New Jersey area. For me, a local New Yorker, I'm happy to continue my service back home after a decade and a half of deploying abroad and moving around the country. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about the Corps' mission in this greatest port of the world, the Port of New York and New Jersey. As many of you know, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has its roots here in New York dating back almost 250 years to the American Revolution and our founding leaders' direction for us to defend the harbor. Forts Wadsworth and Hamilton at the base of the Verrazano Bridge serve as existing reminders of that history today. The Corps of Engineers New York District has played a major role in navigation development and maintenance of the water resource activities in New York and New Jersey Harbor and the estuary for more than 200 years. Navigation is the Corps of Engineers' earliest civil works mission dating back to federal laws of 1824, and the Corps of Engineers New York District has over 727 miles of navigation channels corresponding to our area of operations today. From our capital improvements to widening and deepening the federal navigation channels, the maintenance and channel dredging to drift removal and environmental restoration, the New York District has been involved in many facets of ports improvements. Most recently, the New York District has been involved in deepening the navigation channels in the New York, New Jersey Harbor while preserving the estuary for future generations. The Corps, in conjunction with sponsor agencies and stakeholders, such as the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and the states of New York and New Jersey, are committed to making New York and New Jersey Harbor a world-class estuary. In partnership with the Port Authority, we completed deepening of the major federal navigation channels to 50 feet in 2016. But as you know, the ships keep getting bigger, and the port is busy as ever with a variety of commerce. Looking ahead, we are about to embark on the next improvements to the federal navigation channels in the harbor, deepening to 55 feet and widening channels to ensure that you all have efficient and safe set of navigation channels for use. Our team, in partnership with the Port Authority, are also in the process of preparing plans and specifications for the deepening of the Gravesend anchorage to 50 feet and anticipated contract award in late 2025. This very important component of the overall navigation program will add an additional anchorage area for large vessels for safe harbor and inspections. The estimated cost of this project is approximately $35 million for the removal of about 1 million cubic yards, and coupled with the contract will also include some additional work to the Arthur Kill Channel to complete 40-foot deepening in a small area near where the new Goethals Bridge is located. We expect to sign the design agreement with the Port Authority this spring. This will allow us to initiate the pre-construction, engineering, and design effort, or PED, to prepare plans and specifications for the first construction contract. We anticipate the PED effort to take approximately 2 years and will position us for a construction start on the deepening in 2027. Assuming, of course, that funding is in place. As you know, we're all counting on Congress to pass our budget. Our undertaking of the deepening to 55 feet is currently estimated at approximately $6 billion, cost shared with the Port Authority, who's always been a tremendous partner to work with. It's our goal to beneficially reuse all the 33 million cubic yards of material that we expect to remove from the harbor, as we did with the 55 million cubic yards in the previous 50-foot deepening, and make that commitment to this upcoming project. I've been personally fascinated from the various materials that we find during dredging operations, from hard and soft rock and the large quantities of sand, which we always have demand for use in other projects in the area, and sometimes challenging materials such as silts and clays. We've always been able to find reuses where the material serves as landfill capping or backing of old mines or golf courses, or for my mother, beaches, because she's a huge beach fan, and I've been very happy to come back to New York and be a part of making her a happy woman. It's amazing to see the innovation, thoughtfulness, and care applied to maintaining the waterways and building resilience in this area. Some other interesting typical work that you'll see coming up in 2024 relates to operations and maintenance that we do in the port. Under the core navigation mission, the New York District routinely dredges the channels with the Port of New York, New Jersey to afford safe navigation to the port community. We maintain a close working relationship with the Pilots Association to assist in identifying the most critical areas for dredging. Randy plays a huge role in that, and I believe he had a meeting with them either just this week or last week to do plans for this coming year. We'll be deepening in 2024 the Port of Jersey channel to 50 feet this July, Newark Bay to 40 feet, 45 feet, and 50 feet, depending on the area, this August, and Arthur Kill to 50 feet commencing in September. These three contracts alone will move over 750,000 cubic yards of dredge material from the waterways. I also want to touch briefly on the environmental importance of the estuary. The Corps is in the process of implementing projects to improve the health of the estuary, including the Hudson Raritan Estuary Restoration Project. This project, whose initial study was sponsored by the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, will result in the construction of 20 individual projects, including restoration of marsh inland in Jamaica Bay, restoration of the Bronx River, Flushing Creek, oyster restoration, and other restorations. This plan sets forth a consensus vision, master plan, and strategy for future ecosystem restoration in the region, and in concert with our navigation improvements to come and ongoing operations and maintenance, all in concert with you, all partners continue to ensure the port's preeminence. We at the Corps are committed to working with all of you to coordinate for future work to minimize impacts to navigation, ensure the maritime safety, and protect our waterways and way of life. Thank you very much for hearing me this afternoon. Have a great day.
All right, get out. So thank you everyone for coming to the State of the Port 2024. We're happy to have you all as stakeholders, and that concludes our program. Thank you.